Joining me now to help us get some analysis on this is Ulrich Roux, and he is from the Ulrich Roux and Associates Attorneys. Mr. Roux, thank you very much for joining us. So, your thoughts, am I correct, firstly, to interpret what happened there, that these were pre-trial procedures that were being undertaken, and that on the 26th of March, if I'm hearing correctly, that's when the trial is going to get underway?
Yes, it's been postponed for trial. The pre-trial formalities are so that the defence can get a copy of the docket, so that all the interlocutory applications are set aside, and once the matter is set down for trial, both the defence and the state confirm that they are in possession of copies of the docket, they've been briefed thoroughly, and that they are ready to proceed with the trial. Then on the 26th of March, if there's no other issues hampering the trial proceeding, then the state will open their case and lead their first witness. But I think we must just remember the background to this matter. The accident took place quite a few years ago.
2014.
2014, and an inquest was then held, during which it was then determined that there was negligence at play when these two people were killed in the accident, and only after that was determined did the state then elect to institute charges against Duduzane Zuma last year.
And of course, the NPA sort of dilly-dallying, if you like, on this particular case, because at some point AfriForum had to step in where the previous prosecutor, state prosecutor, and that's Gerinel, had to get involved because the prosecution didn't want to take this case further. Only then do we have the NPA reinstituting charges.
Yes, remember that there's been a change of guard at the NPA, and one can only wonder whether that played a part in that decision. But at the end of the day, and the same with the corruption charges that are now provisionally going to be withdrawn against Duduzane Zuma, the NPA has a duty to only prosecute when there's a reasonable foreseeability of a successful prosecution. So in other words, they can't persecute a person at all costs. They cannot try and fabricate a case. They cannot try and build a case if there is not a case. They can only evaluate the evidence that's available to them, ensure that they have all the applicable evidence to a matter, and then make an informed decision as to whether they're going to prosecute someone or not.
Let's then move on to the very trial you're talking about, the corruption one. Duduzane Zuma is going to appear in a separate court around the alleged bribery allegations, 600 million rand being offered to former Deputy Finance Minister Mcebisi Jonas. The question I want to ask you there is, around the NPA, is it a cop-out that they are saying they're withdrawing these charges purely on the basis that the testimony of Mcebisi Jonas at the state capture inquiry has yet to be finalized?
Remember that we are sitting with a situation where the entire society and the South African public wants to see action taken subsequent to the Gupta leaks and subsequent to all of these revelations that have come out in the state capture inquiry. But again, we can't do that at all costs. A decision was made to charge Duduzane Zuma last year with corruption. They must have made that decision based on the evidence available to them at the time. But subsequent to that, the Hawks and the NPA have come out and said, well, we're only going to prosecute and investigate certain individuals subsequent to the finalization of the state capture inquiry. So, we can only speculate as to what the internal mechanisms and procedures within the NPA are. But from the outset, and this is not going to be a popular opinion, I do think that they have carefully evaluated the evidence currently in their possession. They know that Mcebisi Jonas still needs to be cross-examined during the state capture inquiry. That could very well bring forward evidence which could bolster their case, or it could bring forward evidence which blows their case to pieces. So, in my opinion, a well-thought-through decision was made. Provisionally withdraw the charges. Do not keep the matter on the court roll if you know that you're only going to prosecute it at a much later stage, because the NPA is full within their rights to reinstitute charges later on. We need to have faith in the NPA and the South African police. And again, people are going to come back and say, well, we have all of this evidence available to us. Why has no one been arrested and prosecuted? We must have faith in them that they are doing the right thing and that they are going to prosecute people only if they have sufficient evidence to show that there's a reasonable foreseeability of a successful prosecution.
Ulrich Roux, we'll leave it there for the time being, but might I remind you that the Estina Dairy Farm case is still very fresh in the minds of the people regarding yet another case that's related to the Guptas and, of course, the likes of Duduzane Zuma. Thank you very much for having made the time, Ulrich Roux, talking to us about that particular case. Let's say